We blame cholesterol for a lot of the heart disease, atherosclerosis, arterial sclerosis, because it's at the scene of the crime, but it, rarely pulls the trigger. I mean, cholesterol is kind of like a fireman, right? It gets called to the fire to put the fire out.
Right.
And so the theory that if we had fewer firemen, we'd have less fires is kind of absurd. Right, but that's the theory. That's the theory in LDL cholesterol. It's like, it might work in California. I could see them passing that legislation.
Yeah.
You know what we need? We need less firemen. But so the theory that if we push down the firemen, which was called to the site of inflammation, meaning we reduce the cholesterol, which was called to the site of inflammation to cause the repair, rather than ask what started the fire, that notion is about to be, I think, blown out of the water by big data. I think you're going to see big data, artificial intelligence, and early detection in the next 5 years are just going to circumvent the entire system.
Do you think there's a possibility of removing food oils from the market?
I don't think that we'll ever replace
food oils. Excuse me.
Yeah,
seed oils.
I don't think that we'll ever replace seed oils.
Why not?
I think what's really interesting is the chemical processing. So another really good thing, and I'm helping to author this paper with Callie Means and a bunch of other folks to present it to Bobby Kennedy in looking at the genesis of chronic disease. Because if you and I know lots of people have talked about this on your show, so I won't belabor the point, but if you look at the spending of $4.5 trillion a year, right, on healthcare in the United States, and then you say, well, what do we lead the world in? Well, as of December 6th, we were ranked 66th in the world in life expectancy. We lead the world in morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, multiple chronic disease in the single biome, meaning not just our population has multiple different chronic diseases, but multiple chronic diseases in the same body, because most people don't just have one autoimmune disease, or they're not just hypertensive and diabetic. They're hypertensive, diabetic, and hypothyroid with an autoimmune, usually multiple autoimmune. We lead the world in infant mortality, maternal mortality. And so you got to ask yourself, how is $4.5 trillion a year in spending leading to these kinds of consequences? And very often it's actually not the food, it's the distance from the food to the table. So it's not necessarily the plant, it's what we're doing to process these plants to get them on the table. And so I think what you're going to see is these GRAS guidelines, generally regarded as safe, which is essentially how the FDA decides whether or not you can micropoison the population. So we are allowed to micropoison the population, right?